Hi, this is Peter Teuscher. I'm here with Tobi Dempker. Thanks for joining us for another podcast where we like to pick a topic and see where the conversation takes us. We usually talk about personal development, professional development, and a little bit of philosophy. And first thing, I want to excuse my voice because I've caught a little bit of a cold after my last trip. Tobi, when you're in isolation for almost 2 years, your immune system, I guess, seems to weaken, and you get. I usually never get sick. So anyway, Pardon my voice. I'll try and keep a clear head. I'll try and make some sense with the words I'm saying.
You're sounding good, man.
Thank you. Okay, I'll try and keep that level. So let's jump into it, Tobi. And did you have any afterthoughts? We had a little truth dig last week, or last session. Little talk about truth. Any thoughts about that?
A little bit actually, yeah. Because it struck me how often I have this kind of conversation nowadays about, what do you know, what don't you know, what side of the story are you looking at, or what side of the story are you getting? And it's a conversation that I have with so many people, and we're all, I guess everybody's aware of this, but still, we're human, so we're still getting caught up in the biases, and we're buying into different sides of the story. So it's hard, you really have to make a really conscious effort to try to stay objective.
Yeah,
but it's very difficult. Yeah,
it certainly is, and I think it's more convenient to find simplify things, reduce things down to the simplest components, and that doesn't always get you to the truth. So I think just a recognition that it's hard to know the truth, not just these days, but in general. Like, what can we know for sure? I think philosophers have been talking that for many hundreds of years, if not millennia. I totally agree. I had a friend who was in the U.S. recently and came back saying, wow, it's so expensive, and it's all because of the Ukraine situation. And it's like, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. There were a lot of things that have happened even pre-COVID, supply chain issues. So I think that just shows the complexity of the world we're living in. And then just to reduce it down to the most immediate problem that's in the world is, it distorts our worldview, and it makes it easy to blame. And so I think if we want cooler heads to prevail in the world, we need to be rigorous in our pursuit of truth, I hope. And it's funny because the thing I was thinking of is, there seems to be a lot of concerns now that Elon Musk has bought Twitter, what will happen. And there seems to be a lot of voices about, well, it's got to be moderate. There's got to be some restrictions on what you can say. There are already laws in place for what you can and can't say. So I think there are some people that are worried about, how will information be conveyed, because it could construe that, like, it could distort the truth, right? I think we have to have some trust in people and this is why I wanted to have this as a topic, and like encouraging people to, take responsibility for knowing the truth, right? Or for at least getting as close as you can to it.
It really highlights the importance of diversity in different kinds of news or just information platforms. You need a lot of different kinds, and then sort of explore a little bit on that network of different kinds of platforms. So
I think recognizing your biases, other people's biases. I mean, we're faced with less news and way more opinion in whether it's North America or even in Europe. I don't know how it is in Sweden, but there's a lot of people weighing in that are experts or that just have an opinion, and that's fine. I think the more, like you say, diversity, the more opinions we can hear. It doesn't make it any easier to sort through it, but at least it might help us find a place in the middle, right? So, So anyway.
And opinions are opinions. It's not facts.
Yeah, it's one person's perception, and they probably have good information, but maybe not all the information. And I think I do believe in the assume positive intent, right? It's better to assume someone's ignorant of the facts rather than assuming that they're intentionally trying to do something. I think people genuinely believe in certain viewpoints, and I think it's good that we, get people who are passionate about what they believe and think that it's true. But the recognition that, we live far more in a belief, we did a thing on the beliefs, we live far more in a belief-based world, society, than we do in a truth or fact-based, all our systems are based on the fact that we believe in them. So maybe that's a good place to leave it. So I'm interested to hear about your topic today, and I'm glad you're
Yeah,
leading
sure.
today because I feel honestly a little foggy in the head. So
Yeah, let's see if this clarify things or not. I don't know. But yeah, so I was struggling a little bit with finding a good topic for today, but I took something that is close to heart, and it's about appreciation and recognition.
hmm
And I think the reason I picked it is it's something that I constantly find that I need to work on. Um, it's a well-known it's a well sort of known and discovered fact that if we show more appreciation to people, and share a lot of positive feedback and recognition to people, it's a very strong intrinsic motivator for
yeah.
people. So if we want people to perform well and feel well and be healthy and be engaged in the work, etc., we should show more appreciation and recognition.
Mm.
And everybody knows this, right? But it's still so difficult for us to do for some reason. I mean, if it's something that I really want to change about myself, it would be to just constantly do it a lot more.
Mm.
And it's kind of difficult to understand why I don't do it. But anyway, so it's something that is very close to my values and something that I would like to do a lot more. And recently, because I'm involved in a program, I did sort of one of these assessments that look at your career values and your drivers, etc. And maybe not the top one, but one of the top one is the my my inner motivator is very much based on recognition and appreciation.
Mm.
So if I'm recognized or if I get appreciation for what I do, I'll go so many extra miles. And I know this, but it just became so evident in this assessment that I was doing. And it's just interesting to see what kind of driver it is for me. I mean, we constantly talk about different types of motivation, and at certain points, I would like to, yeah, sure, make more money or whatever it is. But it's really, for me, the top one is really getting some appreciation and recognition for what I do.
Mm.
So I thought we could just talk about that and
Yeah,
see
it's
where it
a
takes us. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one. And for anybody thinking, oh, this is just kind of a fluff topic, I think it's super important and it's super underrated, as you say. And I'm glad you mentioned both words, appreciation and recognition, because some people just kind of see them as simultaneous. And I think there's an important distinction between the two. Recognition is obviously when you're recognizing someone for their performance or the actions they've taken or the results that they've achieved. And I think appreciation is just, no matter what the outcome, you appreciate someone's effort, or you appreciate, the values they have, or their attitude they come to work with, or in your relationships, you just, thanks for being you, kind of thing. So I think that's really important, and everybody loves to be appreciated. And I think you were referring to how much it increases motivation. There was a study done a while back in the U.S. that showed that when just showing appreciation, not recognition, but showing people appreciation through actions or words or whatever, can increase motivation and productivity by more than 20%. I think it was 23%. And then if that person gets that appreciation, but there's also a culture of valuing people, then that can exceed 40% in terms of growing the motivation or the productivity. So I mean, for anybody who thinks that it's just kind of a very superficial idea, we all know. It was. I'm trying to think of the name of the guy who gives relationship advice, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he said, what do you want to do if you want to get a man to do something? Appreciate him. Just appreciate him, because then he'll want to do more, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think when you said that about yourself, I don't know if it's more of a male thing. I think maybe it's kind of in the female energy to be a little bit more selfless and not need recognition, but so I can't say, and I don't
Mm.
want to make those kind of stereotypes. But I know as a man, you know, it's when my girlfriend appreciates something, I want to do more of that, right?
Mm.
And in with clients, when I have a coaching client who just so appreciates what I do, like because I do a certain amount of my work pro bono. I like to do some some work free of charge for people who can't afford it, and they'll always try and come back with some kind of exchange, some kind of in kind or some little gift, even
Mm.
though they don't need to, and that just makes me want to do more of that kind of work because I just see the appreciation, in their faces. So I think
Mm.
it's a huge motivator, and so that's why I say I think it's important to distinguish it from the recognition piece. Recognition, obviously, that's a no-brainer. We need to,
Mm.
that's why assessments that are done, the things that you've done right are often recognized. I think what's not recognized, like we get recognized for the things that bring results, but we appreciate the day-to-day things,
Yeah.
that you can't, there's no equation there. It's hard to quantify it, to put a number on what the value of it is. And that's where appreciation, I think, really comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering about that that relationship guy that you were talking about as well. If that's the same story that I heard. I think I heard a story about it was a dolphin trainer in Australia, and she was kind of amazed that she could make her dolphins do fantastic things. She could train her dolphins to do flips and yeah, whatever you call it. But she couldn't get her husband to put his dirty laundry in the right place, right? So she started thinking about this, and she was always giving the fish some kind of recognition and appreciation. Or obviously, they were giving the dolphins some fish to eat. So she was thinking, what can I do to get my husband to put his dirty laundry in the right place? So she just, gave him a kiss on the cheek and said, "Thank you very much." And then all of a sudden, she saw this this behavior,
Yeah.
and we were making jokes about this. Yeah, you should just give your husband some fish, then, and he'll he'll do it.
Yeah.
No, but it just shows the small simple thing. Of course, genuinely giving, showing some appreciation, and
It
saying
needs to
that
be
I care about
authentic.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And I think whether it's in personal relationships or work relationships, that appreciation goes a long way. Why do people stay loyal to companies even though they can make more somewhere else?
Mm.
And appreciation is definitely a factor. And why do friends go out of their way to help you rather than someone else in your circle of or network of friends? If you're appreciating them, as we just said about in personal relationships, romantic relationships, all of that. I think, and even with your kids, you're a dad, and I think it's just kids, they like recognition, but I think I see it with my girlfriend and her daughter. She just appreciates her daughter for just trying things or just being who she is. And I
Mm.
think if we could do more of that, it would certainly help kids' self-esteem. And I'm not talking about giving all kids a trophy. Like when there's competition, I think you need to recognize the difference between your achievement. But I think
Mm.
I do like the idea of rewarding effort. And I think
Hmm.
you need to distinguish again the difference between appreciation and recognition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was thinking about another thing, but just another example of this, I could say, is when a lot of the workshops that I've been doing, we have an activity that which is so simple, but it's almost always the highlight of the workshop. And it's called something I appreciate about you. So I
Mm.
mean, basically, it's a mingle, and just okay. So now everybody, depending on how much time you have. If it's 5 minutes, if it's an hour, you can do it in very, very many different forms. But very simply, if you just do it for 5 minutes as well, something I appreciate about you, and then you go around and say and just share that something I appreciate about you is, and then you share that and you just say thank you, and it just creates such a buzz, and people don't ever want to stop doing that for, but it's always in the beginning that, oh, this is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do this, and it's really stretching that comfort zone. But as soon as you get into it, it's great, oh, I want to do this a lot more.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's why I think that's so interesting. It's a fuzzy, funny little exercise that is uncomfortable to start doing, but when you start doing it, it's great. So why is it so hard to do more?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's funny. I just remembered there was an example at a school. I again, I don't know if it was in the UK. It was English speaking. I don't know if it was the UK or the US, but where they had kids come up on a Friday, you could come up and just express your appreciation for a teacher, a classmate, anyone in the organization,
Mm,
uh, and then it became it's raised the culture. It's made such a positive environment. I think they had a number of issues, and it just it's something that totally changed the mindset and totally changed the way people interacted with each other. And
mm,
so people were looking forward to, they'd make note of, they start to notice the things that people do that they really appreciate, so that they could bring it up on the Friday, right? So
mm,
just getting into that habit, right? And it's a nice incentive to know that, oh, I really, there's my opportunity to express it to everyone and show recognition. It doesn't need to be in front of a group. It can be one on one. But I think that's a really
mm,
great example of how uplifting that is, of getting this culture of appreciation
mm,
into a school. Well, then it's going to work in your family. It's going to work in a work environment. It's going to lift the energy. It's going to lift the attitudes and the culture of your organization. So I think it's a great thing.
mm. Yeah. And I guess if you can do that on a regular basis, and it becomes a part of just the way that you communicate, it opens up that, I guess, I mean, if we talk in the language of the johari window, it really opens up that arena to communicate about different things as well. So it's like an opener for, so if I have an issue or if something that I'm not comfortable with, I th- I'm guessing here, but it seems like it's a lot easier to bring that up to the table for a discussion if I feel like, yeah, we can have this kind of talk.
Yeah.
So it's just really, I guess what I'm saying, that is it's fundamenting or developing that trust to a level that, yeah, I feel comfortable to talk about other things with you.
Yeah.
So it's just really opening up that window.
Yeah, you're right. It does develop a level of trust where people are more willing to, be themselves, be more authentic. And I think the Johari window, for listeners who don't know it, it's four quadrants that kind of identify, what others see in you, and about yourself, what about yourself others don't see, and then the other side is the things you're blind to. So what others
Mm,
see that you don't, and what's
mm,
kind of blind for everyone. But I think that quadrant where you're looking at, what you're unaware of that other people see in you, and that we always people, we think that everybody, or that people always see our mistakes and our faults and our foibles,
mm,
and really, other people don't see half of the things that we're criticizing ourselves for. But also, everybody's doing the same thing to themselves. And I think when we start to realize that, we're all kind of in this together, and how good would it feel to express that, that something, notice that someone noticed something nice about you, or noticed something positive about you. It's just going to give you a whole different approach and decision making process and everything else.
yeah, yeah. And I'm also thinking about the okay, so we're talking about appreciation and recognition. And another thing, when we're talking more about the recognition part, I
Hmm.
think it's interesting to look at what you can recognize in another individual, and especially, for people that are not seen so often. Something, it might be someone that you don't know so much, or is a little bit, perhaps a little bit shy, or don't want to take too much space, but they just to recognize that I see you. And it can be appreciating just something small that they've been doing, or so that's why I want to talk about appreciation and recognition, that
Hmm.
in that sense it kind of fits together, that I I recognize you, I see you, and I also appreciate what you've been doing.
Hmm.
But it's just like lifting that confidence a little bit. I have a client now where we're talking a lot about, self-confidence issues, and we're utilizing that recognition part also for herself to look at, okay, what do you recognize as strength in yourself? So, and you can do that from very many different perspectives, of course. You can look at it from yourself. What do you recognize about yourself that you don't really think about so much? But of course, as a coach, I need to support that and share what I recognize in the person. But looking at yourself as well, it's really a way to strengthen that self-confidence. Yeah, I know that I'm good at this, and I this is something that I've been doing before that I do well, etc. So just finding the strengths.
Yeah, and most people, especially high achievers, are quite hard on themselves.
Mm.
It's the people who are overconfident are kind of the small minority, and so I agree. I think it's a good tool to put things in perspective for people, and especially we live in a world that's fairly focused on extroverts. So the extroverts get the attention, and it's
Mm.
often the people, that contribute equally that are the unsung heroes, right?
Yeah.
The
Mm.
people, someone in accounting or someone who's actually. I remember the story from NASA back when they were, trying to put a man on the moon, and
Mm.
uh, and it was
Mm.
this, what do you do for NASA? Oh, I'm helping to put a man on the moon, and he was a
Mm.
janitor, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's a great attitude to have. So clearly, in order to have that attitude, you must have been appreciated, or there must have been a culture of appreciating every single individual who made a contribution in their own way. So
Yeah. Mm.
that made me think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And what I what I guess I really want to emphasize, and that where maybe I'm bringing this up because I would like to do this a lot more, to
Hmm.
th- to to be it more rather than to do it.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that difference is not something that I have to think about, that I need to do this. This is all what I want to do. But I would very much like that to be genuine part of myself and my natural behavior, that it's very easy for me to share appreciation and recognize what I see in others. And I can do it, and I do it, but I have to step into a certain role. It doesn't come naturally
Hmm.
to some sense. And I guess that annoys me. So coach me, you
It
know?
it does take practice, like
Yeah.
anything. I think
Mm,
any habit or behavior you want to integrate, it takes repetition. But it's
mm,
funny. I rarely watch TV, and so somebody recommended a series to me, and actually a client recommended a series to me, and so that I went out of my way to watch it. And do you know Ted Lasso? It's a series from the U.S.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I
a bit of
haven't
pop
seen it.
culture.
Mm,
Yeah, actually it develops quite well. The first episode, you have to I think you have to understand American culture a little bit, and obviously for me, coming from North America, it's a little easier. But yeah, it's a American football coach who comes to he's hired to coach for all the wrong reasons. He's hired to coach a British soccer team football,
mm,
and anyway, he comes there with no knowledge, but he comes with such a positive attitude. And the thing is, he's constantly saying, appreciate you,
mm.
and and I think that is such a positive message. And I just you know I don't know of any kind of show or movie in recent memory that's again, I'm not a big consumer of pop culture or movies, but I don't think there's anything that's made me feel quite so uplifted as that program. So anyway, it's if anyone hasn't watched it, I actually recommend it, and anyone who's a coach, definitely have a look. There's some great examples there of empowering and getting a positive culture in your team and your organization.
Yeah. That's what I heard actually. It was a colleague. I haven't seen it, but it was a sort of a coaching colleague that told me about it. Like very very worthwhile to watch.
Yeah.
Maybe I should give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Yeah.
On the recognition piece, I was thinking also. I think I actually even alluded to it before, but the things we recognize, I think, are really important to the people we interact with and the interaction. Because, if you're only recognizing the people that hit big numbers or landed the big client, or you recognize your kid only when they get straight A's.
Mm.
I think that's very one-dimensional recognition.
Mm.
There's a book, "What Got You Here Won't Get You There," and he talks about
Yeah.
one of the it's Marshall Goldsmith, and he
Yeah.
talks about how who's a successful
Consultant.
he's a
Mm.
consultant and executive coach in the U.S.
Mm.
and he talks about there's in our culture there's no recognition of the things you didn't do, because he talks about it in terms of nobody talks about the big deal they didn't close because it was the wrong thing for the business, or the mistakes people didn't make. Nobody talks about that, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't. And I think those things can be more important. When I did sales training to young salespeople, one of the things that I really emphasized was that sometimes the best decision you make is to walk away from a deal, right?
Yeah. And that's very difficult to do. Right. Well, then, yeah, then we're going into that values discussion, I guess, that we had last time. To be how that steers your decision making, and it's really it's easy to fall into that trap if it's a very lucrative kind of deal, but you in your heart, it's not the right thing, but still you're sort of lured to go that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. I think the other thing that I really want to talk about, appreciation. I think this is something I try to incorporate, and it's actually something that I've been able to practice quite a bit during COVID. I think we all slowed down a little bit and had more
Mm.
time in one place, and so I found myself really appreciating the area that I live in. Right, so
Yeah.
I think integrating, and I think this is associated with appreciation, but really coming from a place of gratitude. I think when you integrate that into your daily life and you appreciate all the little things, and you really have this feeling of gratitude,
Mm.
it just raises your level of happiness
Yeah.
in every part of life. It'll
Yeah.
raise your happiness in the job that you do. It'll raise your happiness in your relationships when you really find something to appreciate, and then you transition to this real sense of gratitude, and then just with anyone else that you interact with.
Mm.
If you can introduce this habit of gratitude, going from appreciation to this deep sense of gratitude, I think when you internalize that,
Mm.
just the positive energy that I've when I did work, when I was working in the corporate world with the team, and even other people in the organization I interacted with, I think it was funny how people would respond to me just because I thought a lot about, wow, we would struggle without that person. I really appreciate their effort, even though they don't get any recognition, or just I think when you look for things, it really gives people notice. They get a sense of it.
Mm.
We 70% of our communication is nonverbal. When you that give that kind of vibe off,
Mm.
and then it makes you feel so much better.
Mm. Yeah. That brought two thoughts to my mind, and the first one is what I also want to talk about, the kind of mindfulness, and you position it more as gratitude, but that mindfulness piece of appreciation. So what you really appreciate being around or in your surrounding or whatever. And I find that fascinating when you're missing something. So if you're, for instance, if I'm on a business trip, or if I'm if I'm on a business trip and I'm not together with my kids, I long so much for them, and I just when I come back, it's going to be great. And after 5 minutes, it's like I take it for granted again. And that appreciation that I have the opportunity to be together with the people I love, or to do I mean, whatever it is, to be in a safe environment, or a warm that I have a warm house, or
Mm.
that I have tap water in my kitchen, or there's so many things to be appreciated about, but we just take them for granted. So that is a mindfulness part that really comes into play as well, to really look around and feel sense into what we're having, and sometimes, yeah, if it's not sometimes but often, tap into that gratitude and appreciation that I'm in a pretty lucky situation, because most people really are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use the words interchangeably. So we've talked about appreciation, gratitude,
Mm.
recognition. I think they're coming from, they focus on different things, and I think the mindfulness is important. You're right, because the mindfulness allows the noticing. Right,
Mm.
it brings you to the present, and it allows you to notice. Because sometimes the reason we don't appreciate is because it's not within our perception. We're
Yeah.
so, our mind is so, our mind filters out most of the information we come in contact with, and
Mm.
we get very, focused in on certain, the thoughts we have are repetitive. That in turn affects the way we see the world, and so our perception is very kind of, narrowed down in terms of what we could be seeing. And so yeah, definitely the mindfulness does allow us to be aware, but it also hopefully brings us into a state where we can appreciate better, rather than noticing something and going, yeah, but and right
Mm.
back onto the next negative thing, right? So I
Yeah,
think
yeah, exactly.
those are all the great benefits of mindfulness. And then obviously, when you start your day with meditation, or you meditate more than once a day, that gives you a better opportunity to be mindful. And it's systemic, right? It all
Mm.
interacts with one another.
Yeah, yeah. And the other part that you brought my attention to was how, by appreciating others, you have such a bigger opportunity to sort of look past other people's flaws or weaknesses or whatever it is. And for example, I've been in situations when I'm working with people that kind of annoy me because they're different. So so I get frustrated because I'm working with people, they think in a different way, and asking too many questions or whatever. And it slows down my progress. But then when I'm in the situation where I'm kind of forced to look at what I appreciate about them, I mean, it's the productivity that they bring to the table is enormous, and I could never be without them. And just recognizing that okay, I need to look at what I appreciate about. I appreciate you challenging my ideas about certain things, or what. So especially with people that might be perceived as different from ourselves, to look into what I appreciate about them, and recognizing that's a real, wow, it's a wonderful strength, and very developmental for myself.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because the things that are strange or different to us, um, those are, we often very quickly label them as bad. The stuff we do, the stuff we know, the stuff that's familiar, good. The stuff that for some people, the stuff, especially if you're more of a conservative mindset person, and I think conservative and liberal, we need both sides in terms of making a culture work well. But I think that that there are people who don't like to I love to travel. There are people who don't like to travel because they like the familiar. And it's
Mm.
kind of funny when I go to some places, like I'll go to Turkey or Spain or whatever, and you'll see tourists, and really they're looking for everything they have at home, just with better weather, right? They want the familiar, the strange to them, uncomfortable, right? The foreign is uncomfortable, and so often the things that we're unfamiliar with, we're fairly quick to discard without taking a moment to kind of appreciate the benefits of it. I think
Mm.
I think that's definitely one part of it, and I forgot the other part because my brain is just so foggy today. I apologize. Anyway, it'll come back to me.
Mm.
Over to you.
Yeah, no, but and it's interesting when you're doing any kind of these kind of I mean personal traits or behavior assessments where you really have to analyze and look at the qualities of different individuals and say,
Mm.
okay, yeah, okay, so that's different from me, but no, that's very helpful, and I really appreciate about you. And when you tap into that kind of energy of being able to share that appreciation, it's really bonding, and it really opens your horizons to see more opportunities and more, yeah, well, I guess developmental opportunities for both parties to see, yeah, this is how I view things. So
Yeah.
that kind of taps into to diversity as well. So,
Yeah, no,
mm,
I agree. And look, I'm very fortunate to have grown up in a very diverse city, had a diverse group of friends, been able to travel a lot. So I've seen lots of different cultures and people. And I've found something to appreciate everywhere, even when it wasn't such a nice environment, or I've found something to appreciate. And I think that actually segues into something else I was thinking of, which you don't always have to, with the recognition piece, you don't always have to appreciate when someone succeeds, right? Sometimes when they need the recognition most is when they have failed at something, but they tried hard, or they did their best. They're on a learning journey, right? Or
mm,
when you go to a place and you judge it and you don't appreciate the upsides, and the thing is, they're just, there are other factors and other conditions, and people are always trying to make the best of things. And so I think that helps you as an individual see the world in a different way, right? But
mm,
also, if you want to see change in the world, the more appreciation you put out there, you're going to, again, we talked about the school and that whole thing. We talked about in
mm.
personal relationships. I think anywhere, if you put more appreciation out there, you'll be part of the positive change. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the easiest things to do, and
Exactly, yeah.
and it can make a way bigger difference.
Mm,
I think we travel a lot for work, and I think I'll get the upgrades, or I'll get the really great service 9 times out of 10, just because I'm trying to be friendly and appreciate the other person,
mm,
I know when in very early in life, when I worked I worked in a 5-star hotel at the very young age, and it got me into that service kind of mentality, and I realized I can recognize in myself that when people really appreciated me, it
mm.
wasn't the people who had the big bucks. I mean, everybody had to have some money, but people who were there on business, who the company was paying for the room. But you just kind of they showed me appreciation, and I just tried to do more and more for them, right? So
Yeah, of course, yeah.
yeah, I think if you look back and you recognize the effect that it has on you, it becomes a lot easier than to do it for other people. I hope so.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
you would hope that you see it as something good that you put out into the world, because when you realize how it makes you feel, and you're aware enough to know that actually I could very easily make other people feel this way, and there'd be mutual benefit. It would be a win-win, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting how it spreads. Maybe we mentioned that already, but when you going back to that exercise that I was talking about, the an appreciation mingle, or just
Mm.
sharing something appreciate about you, is that you just want to do it more, like, and it spreads, and if I then you want to give something back, and it's really interesting to see. So yeah, I guess that's the message. Just do it more, and you'll get more back. And yeah, it's a mutual beneficial thing to do. It's just a good behavior. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely, absolutely.
mm.
Um, yeah,
But can I
yeah,
ask you? I don't know how much more it is to say about this topic, but could I just ask you, what do you kind of, well, how do you feel just having this kind of conversation, talking about this?
good, good. It reminds me. It's a really good reminder, because as much as I think about it on some days, I definitely can do it more. And I think I do a fair job at it if I'm in a good mood. But I think if you can stepping out of my state or recognizing the state I'm in and still trying to get beyond it and appreciate others, I think I know will not only for selfish reasons will get me further than in communication and so on. But I think just talking about it. It's good to have these conversations because it brings it top of mind, and I think that's the benefit we have from all the things we talk about. It we've accumulated this knowledge about these topics, but if it's not there day to day, so I think it's a good thing. And I at first when you sent me the topic last night, I was thinking, how much can I talk about that? And then all of a sudden, it just became, all these things came to mind, and I realized actually this is a really important topic, right? And so I think it's a great conversation to have, and I hope people, whatever we call this podcast, and when they sort of hear about, I hope they haven't just written it off as I don't see anything really productive about this or whatever, because I think it's the one very easy thing you can do to affect your own life and other people's lives in a pretty significant way.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting too. Because I mean, I have the same feeling. Just talking about, I was also a little bit like, how much can we say like this? Let's give it a shot, but how much can? But no matter what the content, but the feeling or the emotion right now is just like, and this is great. I want to do this more, and also I feel much more appreciative about everything around me right now. Just having the ability, I'm sitting in Sweden, it's evening time, you're sitting in Hamburg, we're sitting and having this kind of conversation. There's a sort of connection about all things around. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I want to go and show some appreciation to the people around me. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's because I'm not feeling great, I'm probably going to go to bed right away. But I think the first thing in the morning, I think it's actually there's now I'm frustrated that I can't remember this gentleman's name, but he's a guy. His daily habit is when he puts his feet on the ground. He says thank you, like with every step. The first two steps, thank you, right, and then every step to the washroom, to the to brush his teeth or whatever. That's his morning ritual. He just says thank you over and over and over again, and starts thinking about things to appreciate. And if you can start it's like anything, right? If you start your day thinking about all the worries and negative things you had going to bed. Which is often the case because how you go to sleep is often how you wake up. If you can wake up and you start your day that way, you're going to lift your own mood, and you're just what you have to give the world is going to be so much different. So I think having some, maybe that kind of gratitude ritual. Isn't the right thing for you, but there's something you can do, like the first, those first seconds you wake up, or the first minute as you kind of, re-enter awareness or consciousness. I think finding a way to, just take a breath and, have that mindful moment, and then have a moment of appreciation. I think that's one of the most powerful morning rituals you can do. And I think now that I'm talking about it, again, I often do. I think about things in the evening, gratitude wise. But I think, I think actually waking up in the morning is equally important. And so, that's another great thing about this conversation. Okay, it's going to remind me. Here's another habit I want to integrate into my morning ritual or morning routine.
Yeah. I just got an idea as well, actually. I've never tried this, but it would be interesting to do with a team, to have a 2-minute appreciation brainstorming. So just in the beginning of a working day or something like it, just 2 minutes. What do we appreciate?
Yeah.
And about anything, and just see what comes up.
Yeah.
That would be fun to do.
Yeah, it's good for mental health. It's good for every part of your day, and I'm glad you brought it. I'm glad you chose it as a topic because It's not to be underestimated in any way. So,
Mm.
but that said, I think it's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
drawing a blank on too many things, which isn't great at the best of time. I recall, but anyway, thank you I appreciate that you picked this topic because I think it's a really good one. I don't think I would have, that just shows the mindset, right?
Mm.
You want to think about, will people be helped by something? Where can we add value? And then you underestimate. It's even you and I guess maybe you
Mm.
didn't underestimate it, but even I think when I first saw your suggestion, I thought the first thing I didn't totally see how much added value we could bring by talking about it, and then a few minutes later, it all came flowing to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's if
Cool.
anything, it's a good reminder for people.
Yeah. Back to basics sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I need to be reminded of that as well. So, okay. Well,
Well,
then,
get better
anything
soon.
else?
No, I mean that's
We covered it.
let's see next time maybe we have some afterthoughts and see what's happened since last time. So,
Exactly.
but for now, I mean it's evening time for both of us, so maybe
Yeah,
it's time to wrap it up.
yeah, absolutely. So, to all our listeners, we appreciate you for having a listen and taking the time to spend with us on our kind of random talks, and hopefully we've added some value in your life, and you'll find a way to apply appreciation in your life because it will elevate every part of your own mood and others. So thanks for listening, and we will be back with you in a couple of weeks for another topic of my choosing this time, and I'll try and get one that is equally beneficial. All right.
All right.
Thanks, Toby.
Thanks, Peter.
Have a great
Thanks,
night.
everybody. Cheers.